fellow woodworkers and makers of great things, and welcome to my shop. Today we're going to be working on a lathe. We've got a little project, as the title probably gave away, a very basic turning project. We're going to take a square chunk of wood, we're going to make it round into a dowel, about 1 inch, and then we're going to use the lathe to drill holes into the ends of that dowel. So I'm kind of set up here. I've got the long tool rest on the lathe with 2 banjos. Luxury, you can do it with one. You just turn a portion, slide over, turn another portion. But I like to use the long tool rest one again. I've got some turning tools here. We've got a bowl gouge. We've got a skew. And we've got a parting tool. I think that's all we'll need for this particular project. But let me go over and give you an idea of what we're going to try to do here today, and then we'll get going. Let's take a look at what we got. So this piece apparently has come off of a wooden rowing machine, an exercise machine, right? So there's a frame here, and this kind of stabilizes it. Apparently there's 2 of these and 1 broke. So, you know, my wife volunteered me to make the new one, so here we are. And all it is a dowel. All right, let's see if we can get a thickness on it. I got it right at 1 inch. All right, 1 inch diameter dowel. And in the end are a couple of these furniture screw things that you see on assembled furniture. All right, it's got a very coarse thread and a shoulder, big round flat head, and a hex screw, and that apparently screws through the frame of the rowing machine into here, and it pulls everything tight. So what I think we'll do is, I've got a piece of poplar here. We're going to use poplar. Similar color. I have no idea what this is. It's probably some kind of looks mapley. Actually, it's laminated. Look at that. Multiple pieces glued up to turn this. But we'll take this piece of poplar I had laying around. We'll rip it on the bandsaw to just over 1 inch, so we don't have to turn all of it away. Then we'll get it round on the lathe. Once it's round on the lathe, I found some hardware that is not an exact match to what's in there, but you know, it'll work. We just have to drill the right size holes into the ends of these boards, and you know, make sure that these screws thread in really nicely. I believe these are a little longer than what's in there, but about the same size. So we'll just have to make sure our holes are deep enough to accommodate the additional thread. And that's about it. So let's start by getting this guy ripped to about 1 1/8 inches, and then what we'll do is we'll go over to the lathe and we'll make it round. Then we'll set the lathe up a second time, and we'll do what we have to do to bore the holes in the ends on the lathe. So let's get started. Okay, first things first, let's get this turning blank down to 1 1/8 inches square. This piece has been sitting around a while. It took a little warp to it. For safety, I'm going to run it through the joiner first before I try to put it through the rip fence. Okay, I'm back, and I took this through the joiner, made sure I had made sure that I had a true surface and another one exactly perpendicular to that one. When I join a board that way, I always, I hope you can see that, I always put a reference mark on the end of the board so I remember which two we worked on. So minding that reference mark, if I put the board through this way, I know that this is flat on the bottom and this is flat against the fence, and I'm safe to go. Obviously the pieces that I rip off will be straight to those lines. Okay, and there's the piece from which we will get our dowel. I think I'll cross cut that just a little bit longer than the original one, just so I don't have as much between centers on the lathe. The more you have between centers on the lathe, the more flex will happen, and you don't have to deal with that so much. What we want to do is let's make it a little longer. I'll go right there. Okay, so the stock is centered between the guides, the mounts. Our tool rest is set in place, and we're ready to start turning this thing around. So we're going to use a roughing gauge to get it going. So let's get this guy turning around. Now, one thing I'm going to tell you, and I hope you can see me, the normal position for turning is to have your right hand in at your hip like I have it here, okay? And then to engage the work and hold it at your hip as you move down. Unfortunately, with the way tripods and lights and cameras are set up, you can't see. I can't do that, so I'm going to use something of a reaching motion. I'm going to start here and take it all the way down. I can still feel some flats coming around here, so I got a little more to go. Okay, so we're nowhere near smooth, but that's why they call this a roughing gouge. and we are round. So now we've got to get down to our particular diameter. So to do that, we're going to need a gauge to let us know when we hit 1 inch, and I happen to have one right here, a 1 inch wrench. So if I put the wrench on the stock and part until that 1 inch wrench goes in, I've got my 1 inch diameter I'm looking for. And we'll make several reference marks across the piece, then I'll smooth down to those reference marks. So let's get started. I'm steadying the work with my hand because it's a little wobbly. That's all that chatter you hear. Primarily in the center here, which can have the most chatter. I do have a steady rest, but I didn't feel like I wanted to bring it out for this small job. Okay, there I am, I'm at 1 inch on all my references. So now what we have to do is take it down to those marks. Again, I'm trying to steady the stock with my hand. When I'm turning, I'm looking back here. I'm not looking where I'm hitting the wood. I'm looking back here until this line gets straight. Again, I'm looking at the back of the piece, I'm not looking where I'm cutting, so that line comes nicely straight. Okay, and there we're at about an inch all the way up and down. So let's get these out of the way and get some sandpaper. See what I got here. That's not good. This is the good stuff here. I got 120. We'll start with 120. That feels pretty good. Let's take that down to 220. I guess it needs to be 240 because I don't have any 220. I still feel some little bit here where we're getting that chatter. Let's hit this with the 120 a little more. This is where I had the most deflection. That's better. I got a little piece of 400. And we're good. We're not perfect, but we're good. A little wavy here, but I don't think that's going to be an issue for an exercise machine. All right, so we've got our dowel turned to 1 inch, and now we got to put some holes in the ends. So let's do that. If anybody thinks this piece of wood looks a little darker, it's because it's a second piece of wood. I made a mistake on the first one. I used a parting tool. That was narrower than my wrench, and I'm parting, waiting for the wrench to drop in, and it never did, and I went too far in the middle. I guess you can see that. Just stupidity on my part. I'll get you that parting tool that I started with. So here's what I did. I'm working with this parting tool, which isn't as wide as the wrench. So I'm parting, waiting for the wrench to drop in, and of course it didn't have a wide enough path. So I had to go back and get a wider parting tool so that the wrench could slip in. But the time I did that, I went too deep and had to cut another piece. a poplar to take care of it. So my bad, but you know, this stuff happens. This stuff happens in the shop. I took a 7/32 drill bit. I made a pilot hole in that cutoff that I took from the same stock, and I'm just making sure I can drive that all the way home nice and snug without splitting out the piece, and I can. So that's our drill. 7/32 is our drill. All right, let me spin that out of here and we'll set up the lathe. Okay, let's get what we need to drill some holes. That's a chuck to hold the stock. And then in here, I should have another chuck. And that will hold the drill bit we're going to use to get this done. Okay, let's knock this spur center out of here and put on our chuck. Okay, and somewhere I've got a key for that, right here. Bring that until it looks like around an inch. Get our tail stuck out of the way here. Give that a test. Yeah, that's about where I want it for now. Now we have to go do the same thing on the other side here. And let's knock the live center out of the tailstock. Swap that out for a chuck. Okay. I've got a key for that someplace here. Extend this a little further to get that to seat. That's good. Here's that drill bit I tested. Okay. Now, you guys can't see what I'm doing, can you? See if I get you a wider angle here. Put one end of this into here, like so. Then we're going to take the drill bit. Actually, I'll loosen it up just a tad until it gets centered. going to slide the tailstock up. This is a brad point bit, and I've got it centered in that hole. I'll lock the chuck. A little pressure on that. Now we can tighten this down. Take that down to about 600 RPM. Let's see if I can do this without blocking the shot. I'm going to stand over here at a crazy angle. Okay, that should do it. Now we want to bury all the helix into the wood to get the right depth that we need. Alright, so let me turn this lathe back on. And we'll start advancing the drill bit. Back out a little bit, see if it wants to clear any chips. Looks like those chips are clearing pretty good. And that's one end drilled. Let's flip it around to the other end. Okay, so I got her flipped around. It looks like that chuck marred this a little bit. Well, life is life. So I put a little blue tape on the other end this time before I chucked it. So let's start it out, and we will drill this other end. And there we have it. Both ends are drilled to accept the fasteners. Let's go put some finish on this thing. Okay, let's give this a coat of finish or two. I mean, it's shellac, so it won't take very long to dry. Second coat of shellac. We'll let that dry. Okay, so the shellac is dried. So let's give it a coat of wax. I'm using Renaissance wax, and I'm applying it with a 4/0 synthetic steel wool. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. It's going to be about 10-15 minutes for me, but instantly for you. I'm going to take a soft cloth to that. Buff it out a little bit. Oh, that feels wonderful. Let me get the old one. I'd say they're of equal finish. We're not as light, but frankly, I wasn't going to cut up a nice piece of maple just to match the color. And there it is, the final product. We got a replacement piece for this young woman's exercise machine, rowing machine. I'm sure it will fit. I know the color doesn't match exactly, but hey, since it's free, I guess you can't complain, right? Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like. Please consider subscribing. That helps me a ton. I know this was kind of a basic video, but you know, sometimes just getting a look at some of the fundamentals is important. I gotta admit, I'm very rusty on the lathe. I haven't turned anything of significance in a very long time, so it was nice to get back on it, but just felt a little bit rusty, but that's okay. Everything came out great, except for that one little mess up I had. Oh, maybe I'll put a little blooper clip at the end. All right, thanks again, guys. Once again, please like, please subscribe. See you on the next video. Thanks. Bye-bye. Piece at 1 inch using the parting tool, and this parting tool is too small. Cut. I got to get a bigger parting tool or a smaller wrench. I'll be right back.